After the controversy that surrounded the British Grand Prix, with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen colliding, today we're going to be talking about why Lewis Hamilton didn't deserve a penalty at the British Grand Prix. To do this, first we need to look at the overtaking rules in Formula 1. Now, if the car on the inside is more than halfway alongside the car on the outside, then the car on the inside is entitled to the racing line, and any collision that occurs is entirely the fault of the car on the outside. If the car on the inside is less than halfway alongside the car on the outside, then the car on the outside is entitled to the racing line, and any collision that occurs is entirely the fault of the car on the inside. If the car on the inside is halfway alongside the car on the outside, then neither driver is fully entitled to the racing line, and any collision that occurs is a racing incident. Now, we need to look at which situation it was when Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen collided. Now, as you can see, going into the corner, Lewis Hamilton is alongside Max Verstappen, as you can see by the onboard on screen. And as you can see, as the corner continues, Lewis Hamilton is still suitably alongside Max Verstappen. Carrying it on a bit further, you can see that Lewis Hamilton is now alongside Max Verstappen halfway. So, the third of the situations we discussed earlier. And now you can see on screen where they collided, when Lewis Hamilton was halfway alongside Max Verstappen. So to go back to the rule, on the screen as you can see, the attacker was approximately halfway alongside, so the car on the inside, Lewis Hamilton, was about halfway alongside Max Verstappen when they collided. As you can see, it says, both drivers have a reasonable claim to the apex. If contact occurs, blame will have to be shared. In this case, it is a racing incident. So this is why Lewis Hamilton didn't deserve a penalty, because it was a racing incident by the letter of the law. Now, this incident has a lot of similarities to an incident that occurred at the 2019 British Grand Prix between Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton. And as you can see, this time Lewis Hamilton is on the outside and Valtteri Bottas is on the inside, as you can see by this on board. As they go into the corner, you can see that Lewis Hamilton is actually backed off and Valtteri Bottas is now in front. Lewis Hamilton backed off to avoid the collision, as you can see further. Valtteri Bottas takes the racing line and takes the lead of the race. If we go on board with Lewis Hamilton in this incident, you can see that Valtteri Bottas isn't on the screen. Lewis Hamilton is clearly the car in front going into the corner. And as Lewis Hamilton starts to turn in, he is still the car in front and therefore entitled to the racing line. However, he knows there is potential for a collision, so he backs off, as you can see by the third slide. Now he's backed off to let Valtteri Bottas take the inside line, because Valtteri Bottas was relatively alongside and he didn't want to have a collision. Lewis Hamilton was in the lead of the championship by quite a margin at this point in the season, a bit like Max Verstappen is now. So, although it's not in the letter of the law, common sense might think that Max Verstappen had a lot more to lose than Lewis Hamilton did. Maybe he should have backed off, but he doesn't have to just because he's in the lead of the championship, so that's not really relevant in this conversation. Now, a similar incident occurred between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton in Imola at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, the second race of the season. Now, going down to turn 1, you can see Max Verstappen is slightly ahead of Lewis Hamilton from the onboard. Now, as I actually go into the corner, you can now see that Lewis Hamilton is alongside and even slightly ahead of Max Verstappen around the outside. Now, you can see that he's still alongside as they come around the corner for the first part of the chicane. He's still alongside between the first turn and the second turn, and Max Verstappen is slowly moving across the track to try and squeeze him. And as you can see there is no space left for Lewis Hamilton on the outside, even though he's alongside Max Verstappen. However, there is no collision, and therefore Max Verstappen didn't get a penalty for this. Now, as we look on board Lewis Hamilton's car, he's alongside just before the corner. He's slightly ahead as they get into the first turn. So he's still alongside going round the first corner, and keep a look at his hands on the wheel, look at the steering angle that he's putting in. You can see here that he slightly lessens the steering angle to avoid Max Verstappen, and then on the final slide, he almost straightens the wheel even though he's going around the corner to avoid the collision, which is what he could have said that Max Verstappen should have done at Silverstone. Now that's why, in my opinion, I believe that this incident occurred at Silverstone, because in the past, and in Spain, I believe there was a similar incident, and Lewis Hamilton backed off both times there, as he was the championship leader. But now, Lewis Hamilton isn't the championship leader, and he needs to fight for the championship, and that's why I believe that he didn't back out against Max Verstappen, because he was showing that he's not going to give up in this championship. He's not just going to back off every time they're wheel to wheel, and I think Max Verstappen's got the message, so we should get an interesting end to the season. They're back close on points now for the championship, and I think we're going to have one of the best seasons of Formula 1 ever. So I think everyone just needs to enjoy it, to be honest. So that's really all I've got to say on the matter. That's the end of the video. Please subscribe if you did enjoy the videos. There'll be more videos out soon. And yes, goodbye.